review and answering FAQs, history, mechanisms of action, safety profile, and where to buy. Hey there cosmonauts and nootropic enthusiasts! This is a video review of Selank. Selank is one of the most interesting anxiolytics. In this video review, we will cover its history, mechanisms of action, and how it can be used. If you were looking for a comprehensive Selank FAQ, that is it. Remember our review of Semax nootropic? If you like that one, then you will definitely enjoy the one about Selank too. So let's get started. First of all, what is Selank? Selank is an anxiolytic peptide drug, and it also has nootropic properties. By its structure, Selank is based on tufsin. It is an endogenous peptide which plays an important role in the immune system and shows anxiolytic effects. Usually, the concentration of tufsin in the body is very small. When a person is under stress, tufsin is synthesized in higher concentrations. Thus, it penetrates into the brain. In fact, it's like pressing a button that triggers anti-stress mechanisms at the biochemistry level. But the lifespan of tufsin is short, no more than several minutes. To slow the breakdown of the peptide and prolong its effects, the inventors of Selank added glyproline to its structure. The spectrum of the pharmacological action of Selank is unique. It is a popular over-the-counter anti-anxiety medicine with antidepressant and anti-asthenic action. It also has a capacity to enhance memory and cognitive functions. In short, its intended uses include anxiety and adjustment disorders, neurasthenia, emotional lability, sleep disturbance, stress-related disorders. It also helps to reduce somatic manifestations of anxiety such as headaches and muscle pain. One of the main indications for the use of Selank in healthy people is stress. Selank increases stress tolerance. It eliminates negative emotions and restores normal behavior reactions. The additional advantage of Selank is the short course of treatment. The effect is noticeable from the first dose, and it's also good for your memory. I bet you wonder how safe Selank is. Numerous clinical trials confirm that Selank does not form a dependence. It was also found to be non-toxic even in doses 200 to 500 times higher than the therapeutic ones. Also, Selank is produced in the form of nasal drops. It is the best way to administer neuropeptides. Now, let me tell you a few facts from its history of creation. It all started in the late 1970s. The Ministry of Defense of the USSR set the task to develop a substance that would allow people to remain calm and clear-headed in extreme situations. By that time, scientists already knew they needed to look for endogenous molecules. Biologically active peptides are one of the promising directions for the creation of anxiolytics. Peptides are the body's endogenous compounds, and they perform important neurotransmitter, modulating, and integrative tasks. The good thing about peptides is that they normally have low toxicity, even when taken in large doses. When peptides are degraded in the body, they fall into natural amino acids. Another advantage of peptides is the long duration of their effects. In addition, regulatory peptides mainly perform homeostatic functions. That significantly reduces the likelihood of developing negative side effects when using them. The work on the creation of Selank began in 1978. Dozens of molecules have been tested, including a regulatory peptide tufsin, which was first developed in 1970 at the Tufts University, Boston, USA. In 1995, an interesting property of tufsin was discovered. It was the ability to relieve fear and anxiety in experimental animals. Over the next decade, Russian scientists focused on developing a peptide drug that would have the most pronounced anxiolytic effects. At the Institute of Molecular Genetics, 3 amino acids were attached to the tufsin molecule. This protected it from premature decay in the human body and allowed it to remain in the body long enough to influence the nervous system. The study was led by Nikolai Myasayedov and Igor Ashmarin, 2 honorable Soviet biochemists. To learn more about these guys, check out our video about Semax. The research as well as the clinical trials of Selank lasted until 2009, when Selank finally became available in pharmacies. Today, it is produced at the GMP-compliant factory by Peptigen Inc. Initially, Selank was used to treat anxiety disorders. For example, phobias, anxiety accompanied by tremors, muscle tension, sweating, palpitations, dizziness, etc. But further clinical applications turned out to be much wider. Why? To answer this question, let's dive into the mechanisms of action of Selank. Selank is an anxiolytic with antidepressant, antiasthenic, and activating effects on human cognitive functions. Selank contains 7 natural amino acids. In short, Selank brings the nervous system back to normal. Let's take a closer look. From the studies done over the recent decades, it is clear that the clinical heterogeneity of anxiety disorders and their pathogenetic basis involve neurochemical systems. You may already know that the state of anxiety and stress is regulated by the following neurotransmitters: serotonin, which is responsible for mood; dopamine, which controls our emotions and thinking; noradrenaline, which affects our psycho-emotional state. When our nervous system is under stress, the neurotransmitter balance is disturbed. Selank has the ability to restore the balance of serotonin, noradrenaline, and enkephalins in the emotiogenic centers of the brain. This eliminates the cause of stress at the biochemical level. Further, Selank increases the synthesis of dopamine in the cerebral cortex. It begins to interact with the neurons responsible for the physical and mental performance. Mental activity is accelerated and attention is improved. Thus, Selank operates in several directions. The first one is anxiolytic. Selank acts on the primary link of anxiety. It prevents an increase in the level of noradrenaline and serotonin in the emotiogenic zones of the brain, and a decrease in the concentration of enkephalins. Selank has an antidepressive effect. When serotonin levels are low, depression may develop, so Selank normalizes the level of enkephalins and serotonin. And when the level of monoamine content is high and anxiety develops, Selank blocks it. Another direction is stress protective. Selank eliminates negative emotional stress. It restores motivation and activates adaptive behavior aimed at achieving results. Selank also corrects stress-induced somatic disorders. Selank has a positive nootropic effect on the monastic and cognitive functions of the brain. It activates the processes of learning, memorizing, and analyzing information. And finally, it has an antiasthenic effect. Selank enhances the synthesis of dopamine in the area of the cortex and diencephalon. It is manifested in the reduction of asthenic disorders with a non-exhaustive type of action. So in general, Selank has a normalizing effect on the activity of the main neurotransmitter systems of the brain. It acts as an endogenous expert for the body, exactly to the degree needed to maintain or restore the normal functioning of the central nervous system. What's great about Selank is that the effect differs depending on the patient's condition. In patients with generalized anxiety disorder, a pronounced anxiolytic effect is noted. In patients with neurasthenia, the stimulating effect is more pronounced. The more the pathological conditions are developed, the more powerful the normalizing effect of Selank is. So, what are the main benefits of Selank? There have been many studies on Selank effectiveness among people with anxiety phobic, anxiety hypochondriacal, generalized, and other types of anxiety disorders. According to these studies, the treatment with Selank peptide drug may reduce the severity of anxiety and depression, reduce asthenic manifestations and increase muscle tone, reduce somatic headaches and body aches, decrease internal tension and irritability, increase vigor, activity, and resistance to stress, improve sleep quality and a sense of relaxation, improve memory, concentration, and the speed of reaction, and improve the quality of life in general. It's considered that the most optimal use of Selank is for the generalized anxiety disorder, neurasthenia, and adaptation disorders. Selank may also come in handy in complex therapy because it may enhance the therapeutic effect of other drugs and neutralize some of the side effects. For example, when combined with SSRI antidepressants and benzodiazepines. When they are canceled, Selank can reduce drug dependence. It is important to note that Selank is primarily designed as an auxiliary agent for generally healthy people. Please remember that severe conditions require a complex approach and professional supervision by the attending physician. Another question that we often receive from our customers is, why nasal drops? The main and major reason in favor of nasal drops over other forms of administration is explained by the scientists who created and tested Selank and Semax. The thing is that the intracerebral metabolism is very different from the metabolism in other organs. There is the blood-brain barrier, or the BBB, in our head that prevents active substances from entering the brain tissue from the blood. Therefore, scientists had to come up with a system of rapid delivery to the affected areas of the brain. And this problem has been successfully resolved with the nasal drops. The administration of the active substance through the nasal mucosa is the most direct and fastest way to brain cells. Selank peptide enters the brain through the olfactory nerves that directly connect the nasal mucosa to the brain, bypassing the blood-brain barrier. And that's how the drug begins to act quickly. The research showed that with the intranasal route of administration, Selank possesses high bioavailability, 92.8% of the active substance, promotes the rapid manifestation of the clinical effect. It is found in the brain tissues in 2 minutes after the intake. Selank concentrates in the archaeocortex and diencephalon, which are its target areas. It does not interact with other drugs with different route of administration, and it works for 24 hours. Considering the above, the creators believe that the intranasal route of administration of the drug for the treatment of brain diseases is more effective than other ways. The drops are also preferred over spray because they allow for a more targeted placement of the drug in the nasal mucosa area. I bet you wonder how safe Selank is. As with any other medications, safety comes first. Many drugs used to treat mental and neurological disorders cause drowsiness, lethargy, dull thinking, or other side effects. But Selank is void of these disadvantages. Thanks to the form of nasal drops, the drug immediately enters the mucous membrane. It is quickly absorbed and begins to act almost instantly, being naturally included in the body's metabolism. At the same time, Selank was not found to have any negative effects on human organs and systems. This makes it possible to take Selank for almost any concomitant diseases. The drug does not have tolerance and withdrawal symptoms. Selank is recommended by many Russian doctors. The drug is practically non-toxic since it breaks down in the body into amino acids, which are simpler molecules that are used by cells. You can read some of the clinical studies on the action of Selank. They are linked in the description to this video. Selank has a high safety profile and is available over the counter without a prescription. It is suitable for simultaneous administration with various medications that have an effect on the central nervous system. Moreover, Selank helps to alleviate withdrawal symptoms and reduce some side effects of other medications. The next question is how to take Selank. One bottle of Selank contains 60 drops, each having 75 micrograms of the active ingredient. The average dose is 2 to 3 drops in each nostril. Selank should be taken up to 3 times per day for a period of 14 days. One vial is meant to be used within 5 to 7 days. The course can be repeated after 1 to 3 weeks if necessary. It's important to note that Selank is to be instilled onto the nasal mucosa, but not into the nasopharynx. Remember that it is not a cough and cold preparation, so don't pour it into your throat through your nose. Tilt your head to the side a bit and instill Selank onto the mucosa. But what about an off-label use of Selank? One may also come across some anecdotal reports on the off-label use of Selank in injections. Some people use it for athletic purposes, since it is known to help overcome stress, sleep better, and improve physical performance. There are also some anecdotal reports on Reddit concerning Selank injections which are quite controversial. The authors of this video opt for the on-label use. That is effective enough and also carries fewer risks and side effects compared to off-label. But that's not all. There are also other forms of Selank, N-acetyl Selank, N-acetyl Selank, and sometimes we are asked about them. What do we know? There are other forms of Selank such as N-acetyl Selank, also known as Na-Selank. It is an acetylated version of Selank. And there is also Na-Selank amidate, also referred to as Nasalanka. which is the newest analog of Selank with amidated molecules. These two components are said to cross the blood-brain barrier easier than the original form of Selank. Thus, they are supposed to get absorbed into the brain better and therefore to be more potent. However, there is no available official data on their use, safety, and efficacy so far. Even though they are available for purchase online by some vendors for research purposes only, the reports on their effectiveness vary on Reddit. While some people say that the new compounds have a way better effect on them, others claim that they did not feel any difference from the original Selank. However, if you are looking for a proven medication with a history of use and a good safety and effectiveness ratio, you might want to stick to the original Selank nasal drops. What are anecdotal references of using Russian Selank on Reddit? There are a number of Selank reviews on Reddit. Here is some positive feedback of generally healthy people. The listed Selank benefits include crystal clear thinking, better resistance to outside stressors, and improved sleep. There is also quite an informative discussion devoted to Selank administration in those with autoimmune disorders. Though there are no official contraindications, it should be noted that people with such conditions might take some precautions before administering any drug or nootropic preparation without prior consultation with a doctor. And finally, there is a comprehensive personal review followed by a discussion devoted to both Semax and Selank in terms of how effective they are for people struggling with depression and other disorders of the nervous system. Another reasonable question is where Selank is manufactured and how to ensure its quality. Peptigen is the producer of the most popular products available in our store, Semax and Selank. Why do we trust this company? Let's learn more about it. Peptigen is a Russian pharmaceutical producer. It specializes in the production of novel drugs whose action is aimed at the prevention and treatment of diseases associated with the brain. The purpose of the company is the production of medicinal products developed by the Institute of Molecular Genetics of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and the development of its own compounds and preparations. The company develops and manufactures new generation drugs that fully comply with the requirements of the International Pharmaceutical Quality Standards. The production facilities are GMP certified. If you want to learn more about the company and the production process, check our video about Semax. The next question that we often get is why Selank is not approved in the USA by the FDA. Some may ask, if Selank is so good, why is it not approved by the FDA? Well, it is hard to name the exact reason, just as in the case of Semax. But indeed, very often we witness situations when effective and safe nootropics are successfully used in Central and Eastern Europe and Russia, but they are not approved in the USA. There can be several reasons for that. High entry barriers for small companies, difference in criteria, general attitude towards products and companies from Russia. In our video about Semax, we explain this topic in more detail. Make sure to watch it. Where to buy Selank? It's important to note that even if Selank is not approved by the FDA, it does not mean that it's illegal. It only means that Selank is not a scheduled chemical compound, and you cannot buy it in offline pharmacies in the US, UK, or Australia. But Selank can be legally obtained for personal use in minor quantities in online stores or in other countries, for example, in Russia. As for the customs, there are usually no issues with parcels containing nootropics like Selank. Storage conditions of Selank. You often ask, can Selank be stored at room temperature? And is there a possibility that it may degrade over transit time? Let's clear this up. There is a safe preservative in the composition of Selank called methylparaben, 0.01%, and the product is produced in sterile conditions at the GMP-compliant factory. According to the manufacturer, the shelf life of a new product is 2 years below 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But after the bottle is opened and Selank is no longer sterile, it can be kept at room temperatures below 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit for a period of up to 15 days. It means that you can take it with you on a business trip or vacation. And this also implies that Selank will not degrade while traveling from Russia to the US. Just don't forget to place it in a refrigerator if you are planning to store it for a longer period of time. Which should I choose, Selank or Semax? Selank and Semax are always on the list of the most popular nootropics from Russia. But how to choose the right one? In short, if you are looking for improved focus, mild stimulation, and faster learning, Semax is your choice. Selank will be useful for those who are looking to release stress, relax, and improve their mood. And yes, you can use both if you need. Just wait for 15 minutes between installations. Summary. To conclude, we would like to say that Selank is a very interesting compound that combines anxiolytic and nootropic properties. It is frequently used by healthy individuals and is also prescribed by doctors. Selank's long history of use confirms its safety. Besides, its unique way of administration and mechanism of action make it even more interesting to try. In this video, we have done our best to give all the important information on Selank and how it is used officially in Russia. But if you still have some questions left or just want to share your experience,